Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all doing okay today. Uh, Unfortunately, I'm not. I kind of feel like shit. Um, yeah, I'm a bit sick, feeling a bit under the weather. My roommate recently just got back from visiting family in Germany, and he brought some sort of contagion with him. Fairly certain it's not COVID. We're both vaccinated. He was symptomatic before he left and took a PCR test, so which came back negative. So, and then considering how quickly I caught it, chances are it's not COVID. If my symptoms get worse, I will go get tested. But that said, regardless of COVID or not, if I'm uh, sick and coughing or sneezing, it's not a good idea to stand up in front of a class. So chances are I will cancel the in-person lecture on Wednesday and do some online content instead, because again, I don't want to spread anything, regardless of whether or not it's COVID. And so I will see how I'm feeling tomorrow and make a final call on that tomorrow afternoon or evening, unless there's a marked improvement. I feel it's quite likely that I will, cancel the Wednesday lecture and just do some online content on Wednesday instead, in which case I would make myself available at the 2 p.m. time slot on Zoom as well, and I would fill you all in on that. If I do cancel the Wednesday in person this week, I would quite likely have a makeup on Monday instead. That way you're not losing out on in-person content time. I would basically just kind of switch what I was going to do next Monday and this Wednesday up a little bit, and just rearrange the order that things are given in. So yeah, I'll update everyone on that tomorrow. But for now, I just want to introduce Module 3. So Module 3 is an overview of spatial data models. So last week we talked about projections, right? How do we take the 3D Earth and project it on a 2D plane? And now I'm going to build on that and talk about the different ways that we actually represent data in a GIS. So today is just a very tertiary. So today is just a quick overview of the types of data models. But before I get into introducing Module 3, I also want to just mention that I have posted an answer key for Module 1. So now you will notice that the marked assignment, so your written answers and your file submissions have been marked by your TAs and the grades have been posted. They should have given you generic comments where applicable. So as I was saying, the written and file submission questions have been marked by your TAs, and they should have pasted some generic comments in the Canvas submission where applicable. And so if you need more clarification on that, you can follow up with your TAs. For the quiz on Canvas, the automated submission, there's very limited options on Canvas in terms of regrading, actually non-existent options in terms of regrading fill in the blank question. But with fill in the blank, you often don't, it's hard to predict all the possible correct answers that students are going to input. But I prefer to do like fill in the blank style questions over multiple choice because I think it's, just a bit more rigorous. Anyway, all that said, your grade on Canvas for the quiz is not necessarily reflective of the final grade you'll get. Now, no one's grade is going to get lowered than what they put on the quiz. But what I've done is I've downloaded all the file submissions, gone through and then looked for potential typos and potential answers to questions that are potential answers that I didn't initially enter in the question bank. So I've written a little Python script to automate, to handle the spell checking, and to find potential alternative answers. So I have not posted the updated grades yet. I will do that shortly and notify everyone when that happens, but I have gone through and flushed out all the possible alternative answers. So each time that grades are posted for a given module, so again, that's 1 week after the submission deadline, once the submission window closes, I will post an answer key for that module. Now, this is not going to permanently be visible. I'll probably only leave it up for like a week because I don't want this content permanently floating around on the internet. But I want to be transparent, and I want people to be able to see what they got wrong and right. So I'll post an answer key and just kind of go through and highlight some of the important parts. So you'll see the actual answers, the correct answers are in bold. So for the multiple choice, they're usually pretty self-explanatory, like the select by attribute tool. It finds features that meet a specific criteria within the attribute table, not a specific area. That would be select by location. For the fill in the blank questions, I will list the correct answer and then also, if applicable, half credit. So for Q2, for instance, map was the correct answer. If you put any variant of the word or phrase that included acknowledging that a layout is for displaying maps, you got credit. Again, these are pretty self-explanatory for the numeric fill in the blank question. This one is just right or wrong. Basically, you pull these directly from the attribute table and the statistical summary. So there's not really any room for leeway here. But for future numeric input type questions, a lot of it is like, what kind of result do you get based on certain steps that we have you go through? And there's some room for error or margin for error for deviations. And so for future numeric questions, like calculate the area of this based on these inputs, I will define that margin of error based on the spread of the actual class's submission. So as long as it's not like how many of this are there, where there's only like one right answer, if it's the result of some processes that you'll run, then I'll give a bit of leeway, and I'll explain that further next module, I guess, when they release something like that. So those are the only 5 questions for the application section. And then for the content question section, again, they're also highlighted in bold. So most people got the true false correct, but if you hit false here, I don't think you actually listened to the lecture. And so like for Q2, for instance, lodestone or magnetite were acceptable answers, and then Olmec was, and again, this is counting for variations in spelling and capitalization. If you entered something like Olmec civilization, you get half credit because it's a bit redundant. So for some of them, there are only right answers, like only full credit answers. And then for some of them, I added half credit. So for instance, Geographia is the oldest known example of an atlas. A lot of people put GIS in there. And while it's considered a prototype GIS, if you just look at the sentence, right, doesn't work very well because the answer to this part is GIS. So it wouldn't really be great for it to be redundant like that. And then for the last one, it's index, but something like glossary would get you half credit. Same with Mercator, that one's pretty straightforward. And then for, say, this one, number of people put spatial analysis. And I hadn't initially put that in the answer bank. So a lot of people got that wrong, but spatial analysis is very much correct. So I added that to the answer bank. So again, if anyone has any questions pertaining to the quiz portion and your grade reflective of that, you can contact me. Again, I have not posted the updated grades yet. I will notify people when it does. So don't email me about you not getting points for something until after I post the updates. If you have any questions pertaining to the assignment and the marking of that, contact your TA, because your TA is the one who marked that. Just again, entered a generic answer to the questions here. So each of these things that are outlined in bold is approximately reflective of what would get you a 75% mark on here. So for instance, georeferencing is just how you take like a scan photo or a map and put it on the earth and reference it. For the difference between mean center and directional distribution. Mean center is like the average location of all the points in a set. Directional distribution gives us some idea of the spread. So mean center is just one point. It doesn't tell us anything about the actual distribution. It just tells us the central tendency. Directional distribution gives us some idea of spread in the X and Y directions. With kernel density, why might it be a better tool for identifying the sources? Basically, it can show a much more nuanced fit for a wider range of situations. So if you said something like that, you get 75%. If you made, say, the astute observation that it could do a much better job of handling if there were 2 or 3 or 4 point sources than the other methods, that might have gotten you more credit. For the map submissions, for your first maps, basically, if you did everything we asked, you got 100%. Your first maps exceed our expectations. And I've listed what would certain things that might have qualified you for a lower mark. Again, your TA would also give you a comment for that. That said, for future map submissions, we will not be as lenient. Again, the average score for a map submission should be about 75% for the subsequent labs. For this one, since it's your first map, we kind of just gave everybody a freebie as long as they did what we asked. So just to quickly explain what Module 3 is about. We're going to be looking at spatial data models, or the different ways that we can represent data inside of a GIS. So for today, well, you just got a quick intro here. Basically, we have 2 models, the raster and the vector data model. They do the same thing essentially in very different ways. And one is better suited for one, another is better suited for other applications. And so I've got these just quick little intro videos that will kind of introduce the subject, and we'll build on that to subsequent lectures in this module. So this one is just a quick overview of some key fundamentals in GIS that we need to build on in order, or that spatial data models will build on. And I talk a bit about different types of data collection methods and how we actually get information into a GIS in the first place. Then this video gives just a broad overview of GIS data models. And so these were both videos that I recorded over the summer for the summer course. So some of the specific references to like labs, the numbers are different, but other than that, everything's pretty much the same. And then this is just a short summary. It's like 3.5 minutes long with just a quick overview, recap of spatial data, raster and vector data models. I think it's good to show information from different perspectives than my own. So each week, if I can find something that's, you know, pertains, that is from a different source, I will include it in here. And so the other stuff I have not fully put together yet. But the biggest chunk of this module is your lab work. So again, this module is 2 weeks long. You have 2 weeks to complete this. Given that, this module is much more thorough and comprehensive. So I'm not going to go into a full detailed explanation because I have this video here. Again, this was recorded for the summer course that I taught. So it was lab 2 then. Now it's module 3. Other than the nomenclature, pretty much everything's the same. I would have re-recorded this video, but it's a lot of work for me to talk right now. Also, there's a really cute dog that is a guest star in this video. But basically, yeah, you're going through a full GIS workflow. And then you'll see the assessment questions here. For the assignment, all the questions have been fully entered. But for the application questions, I have not put them up yet. The Canvas quiz isn't available yet, given that it's a 2-week assignment. What I suggest you do is you just write down your answers to these questions. I'll post the Canvas quiz in due time, notify everyone when it's available, and then you can enter your questions on there. So just work through these videos and spend your time focusing on the lab assignment. And I will update everyone tomorrow afternoon regarding final plans on whether or not I'm going to switch things up and do online lecture again on Wednesday and in person on Monday, depending on how I'm feeling.